Moonshiners Season 14, Episode 14. Mark and Digger face surveillance, while Tim Smith battles a fire. The episode kicks off with sweeping drone shots of the Smoky Mountains, painted in a haze of morning dew and suspicion. Mark and Digger, ever the cautious craftsmen, are hiking deep into a new location near Cobb County, Tennessee. They've been operating out of this spot for just under a week. But now, something's off. We saw a black SUV parked half a mile down the road. Never seen it before. Mark whispers to Digger as they crouch behind a thicket of mountain laurel. Digger squints, his face unreadable. Black SUVs mean one of two things: law or poachers, and neither of 'em's good. Paranoia has long been part of the trade, but this time, there's more than intuition to go on. Hidden trail cams they installed 2 days earlier have caught grainy glimpses of movement, figures in the trees, flashes of lens glare, a faint red LED dot that shouldn't be there. Cut to Tim's distillery in Fanuva in Climax, Virginia. Chaos has a very different scent: burning oak and scorched copper. Tim Smith, moonshiner turned legal distiller, is battling a full-blown fire outside his legal operation. Smoke billows into the morning sky as fire trucks screech down the rural road, but the blaze is stubborn and erratic. The camera captures Tim, shirt soaked with sweat and soot streaked across his face, shouting over the roar of flames. I turned my back for 2 minutes. One of the mash barrels must have boiled over and ignited from the still's flame. That mash is flammable as all get out, Tim explains to the camera, coughing between words. We're lucky it didn't take the whole building. He's not alone. JT, Tim's trusted partner and son, is frantically unrolling hoses while trying to move full barrels of whiskey away from the inferno's path. Dad, we need more help. It's catching. The Rickhouse local volunteer firefighters arrive just in time to stop the fire from spreading to the building's interior, but not before it damages 2 outdoor fermenters and a critical batch of bourbon aging barrels. Estimated loss: $20,000 and weeks of work. But more than the financial setback, there's a lingering question in Tim's mind. This was no accident, he mutters, staring into the ashes. Somebody wanted this to burn. Back in Tennessee, Mark and Digger on high alert while Tim deals with fire. Mark and Digger are staring down the cold lens of surveillance. The pair returns to their camouflaged still site after dark, hoping to retrieve their footage without being seen. They approach quietly, each carrying their sidearms, nerves humming like high-tension wires. Using a red filter flashlight, Digger pulls the memory card from one of the cameras and quickly loads it into a rugged field tablet. The footage shows what they feared: someone, dressed in outdoor camo gear, creeping around their still site at 2:13 a.m. the previous night. He doesn't touch anything, just looks, and then points what looks like a handheld scanner at the copper still. Thermal scanner, Mark says grimly. They're trying to find the heat signature. That ain't no hunter. Game warden? Digger asks. Mark shakes his head. No gang warden I know walks around with night vision and infrared. Decision is made. They're pulling out. No product is worth jail time, and something bigger seems to be in play. But before they can dismantle the still, a twig cracks nearby, too close. The camera cuts to night vision mode as the 2 men freeze, eyes wide. Somebody's out there right now, Mark whispers. They extinguish their headlamps, slink back through the woods, and disappear into the darkness like smoke on the wind. Meanwhile, Amanda gets a lead back in North Carolina. Amanda is working solo while Mike takes a brief hiatus. She's at a swap meet, trying to unload a few mason jars of apple brandy to a trusted contact. But while the deal is going down, a stranger approaches her booth, a man with military posture, wearing hiking gear too clean for the environment. He asks casual questions. Where you get your apples? You heard anything about stills getting raided near the border? Amanda plays dumb, but the interaction leaves her spooked. That guy's no buyer, she says to the camera. He's fishing, and I think the net's getting wide. Later, she radios Mark with a warning. Y'all got a bullseye on you. Somebody's looking for shiners from Tennessee to Carolina. Tim's investigation begins with the fire extinguished. Tim begins his own investigation. He walks the perimeter of the distillery grounds, finding something strange near the back gate. A burned piece of synthetic fabric caught on the fence, and next to it, boot prints heading into the woods. This wasn't spontaneous combustion, Tim mutters, his jaw set. Somebody lit that fire. He calls in a favor from a friend with law enforcement ties, a retired ATF agent named Bobby Dunlow. I can't open a formal case, Bobby warns, but you're not the only one getting heat lately. The implication. Somebody's targeting distillers, legal and illegal alike. Back to Mark and Digger. The final escape episode reaches its tense climax as Mark and Digger return the next night to break down the still. It's a high-stakes operation. They need to move fast, quiet, and under the radar. With practiced hands, they disconnect hoses, unbolt the thumper, and bury the mash barrel under brush. But as they begin loading gear into the mule, a rugged ATV, a drone whirs overhead, red light blinking. Go. Go. Digger shouts. They hit the gas and tear through the underbrush, ducking branches and kicking up mud. The drone follows for a few minutes, then loses them in the trees. They ditch the mule behind an old tobacco barn and hoof it the rest of the way. Later, breathless and exhausted, they regroup at their safe house. That was too close, Mark says. Somebody's organized. They've got gear we don't see unless it's military or fed. Digger nods solemnly. We're not just dealing with revenuers anymore. This is something else. The episode kicks off in the stillness of the Appalachian morning. Fog curls like tendrils over the hills, the only sound the chirping of birds and the faint trickle of a creek, until it's broken by the rumble of Mark's old Ford. Aerial drone footage sets a tense mood as it tracks a convoy of unmarked black SUVs climbing a backwoods road. A single line from the narrator sets the tone. In the mountains of Tennessee, what you can't see might be watching you. Scene 1. Eyes in the woods, Mark and Digger. Cock County, Tien, Mark, and Digger are midway through a productive run at their clandestine still site. Digger's fiddling with the thumper keg while Mark is keeping an eye on the mash's temperature, a satisfied grin on his face. They've nearly perfected a peach brandy recipe inspired by Digger's granddad, smooth, sweet, and deceptively potent. But the mood shifts when Mark spots a glint in the tree line. Not sunlight, too angular. He nudges Digger silently. The camera zooms to what looks like a trail cam nailed to a tree. Clearly not one of theirs. That ain't no hunter's cam, Digger mutters. Their jovial mood collapses. With practiced efficiency, they kill the fire and begin a rapid breakdown of the site. The two have played this game long enough to know that when surveillance shows up, law enforcement, or worse, rival shiners, ain't far behind. Only two kinds of people put eyes in the woods. Mark says, one wants your freedom. The other wants your recipe. Scene 2. Tim's trial by fire. Climax. Virginia, meanwhile, in climax, Tim Smith is dealing with a different kind of crisis. His licensed distillery, Climax Spirits, is running a limited bottling of a smoked bourbon. The recipe uses charred oak barrels aged in a custom smokehouse Tim's been experimenting with for weeks. But things take a dangerous turn when the fire inside the smokehouse flares out of control. It got too hot, too fast. One moment we're flavoring wood. Next, I'm smelling my eyebrows burn. Tim and his assistant JT rush to control the blaze. Flames lick the roof of the shed, and with barrels nearby, it's a ticking time bomb. Tim shouts for the fire extinguisher. JT grabs the hose, but water makes the smoke worse. The two men work frantically to contain the fire until the volunteer fire department arrives. What's meant to be a creative enhancement of a new product has turned into a potentially catastrophic event. I've dealt with lawmen, floods, mash explosions, Tim says, but fire? Fire's a different beast. You can't reason with it. As the firefighters finish their job, Tim stands back, face smudged with soot, eyes scanning the charred structure. This could set back production by weeks, if not cost me the whole run. Back in Tennessee, Mark and Digger retreat to a safer location to regroup. They head to an abandoned hunting cabin they use for emergencies. Inside, they hash out theories, Digger's leaning toward law enforcement. He brings out a hand-drawn map showing nearby access roads and potential vantage points. A week later, Mark and Digger set up their decoy still. It's a Frankenstein of mismatched barrels, bad tubing, and sour mash, all designed to look active but fall apart upon closer inspection. Then they wait, hidden in a makeshift blind with binoculars, coffee, and 2 shotguns just in case. A figure in camo creeps near the decoy. Digger snaps a photo with his phone. They stay quiet as the man inspects the site. He pokes around, finds the thumper empty, and curses under his breath before disappearing into the woods.